How many coaches, I'd imagine Herm, but beside him, did you know coming into the Pac-12? Did you have a previous relationship with before you took this job?
Well, I would say I knew everyone. As you know, our circles are relatively small. Chip Kelly, certainly big admirers his from his time at Oregon and then coming over to Philadelphia. Had a chance to work with him directly while I was at the NFL league office. Certainly Coach David Shaw knew of and visited with Coach Rolovich from my previous stop at Conference USA. We actually played against Coach Rolovich in a couple of games. Certainly Kevin Sumlin. It goes on. There's varying degrees of great relationships. And then there are the folks that I have to continue to build relationships. Coach Smith at Oregon State, for instance, is a person I need to spend more time building a relationship with. The one thing that they understand that I hope that I can continue to prove daily is we're about the business of Pac-12 football, promoting Pac-12 football, positioning Pac-12 football to be the best it could be. And with that, our coaches have been phenomenal in being partners and participants in that direction.
I'd imagine they're pretty happy to have a football guy. You know, we're a football guy show, and football guys stick together. So those football guys, you know, sometimes their personality is abrasive. They like being around other football guys, feel comfortable with you, not just from your playing career, but being in administration with the NFL. You know, it has to be a good thing for them and your relationship. It's pretty easy for it to organically grow.
Well, I think John, you hit it. You hit it right on the head in this instance. If we're going to argue about a couple of operational things, maybe some long-term planning initiatives. We're not going to argue past interference because
no,
it's me. You know, we're not arguing that. You know.
You're not about the defensive holding. Keep the flag in your pocket, baby.
There are things that there's a mutual respect for, and vice versa. They know that I'm not going to come with them, and excuse my language, with nonsense. If I'm coming to you, the topics are substantive. These are things that we need to get addressed. And again, how can we continue to position? So our interactions and conversations have been phenomenal just because there's great mutual respect for one another.
I want to talk about your career, your post-playing career, just as a big picture. When you were wrapping up as a player in the late 90s, after 99 with Seattle, did you envision yourself getting a master's degree? Did you envision yourself working in the league office for over a decade and then, you know, working at CUSA and then working in your role now as an associate commissioner? Is this part of the vision you had 20 years ago now, or did this kind of take form as it went along?
Oh, absolutely not. God, my job was I wanted to, and I'll go back to my days at the University of Iowa. I really had no aspirations to play professional football at all, truth be told. My wife and my father were both engineers. We wanted to go to school, get education, and either start our own small business or go to work. My father was one of the first African Americans to work for Procter & Gamble back in Kansas many moons ago. So that was kind of the track that we were on. When we left professional football, we had started a small business, actually partnered with the University of California at Davis, took a vaccine off of their shelves and was selling it to the dairy industry in China. Is what we were doing. So I spent a lot of time in Chongqing and Beijing, LA, San Francisco, kind of that rotation. And Bill Walsh, a Hall of Fame coach for obviously Stanford and 49ers, and Tina Turner.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, and the great Tina Turner, Bay Area Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame member. We had a discussion about a position that was open at the NFL league office. They really thought that I would be a perfect fit for it and that I should put in for it. It was one of those deals where, John, Guy, that every club wanted one of their alumni or one of their representatives in that position because it was kind of a track that would take you into leadership at the league office, and everyone wants that connection. And so we were able to win it. Fortunately, I went to work for the great Gene Washington, the 49ers and Stanford. He was my direct report there, and I learned, quite frankly, how to be an executive from the likes of Gene Washington, the great Art Shell, Oakland Raiders head coach, who turned executive, and clearly one of my favorite people on the planet in Ray Anderson at Arizona State, who at the time came on board as the executive VP over football operations at the NFL. So those three men really impacted my vision on what could happen, what could take place if we were to apply ourselves on that track. Did not have any inkling. I was living between the Midwest and the West Coast. I like New York. My wife likes New York. I tolerate New York. So we wanted to be in New York maybe a couple of years, and a couple of years turned into 13. So that's how that kind of went. And you always got to keep your eye on the NCAA, because certainly after working on the professional side of football business for so long, there was an urging and an unction to really want to impact young people. And really the NCAA is the way, in my opinion, to be able to do that and to have the widest impact. I believe you need to work from a conference office standpoint. So I took a job at Conference USA at the time, and then learned some new things, picked up new experiences working with Olympic sports. John Guy, I oversaw baseball as well as football for Conference USA, which was a phenomenal time. Learned quite a bit during that time, and have carried those experiences now to the Pac-12 conference.
When we found out you were coming on, looking at your resume, and you see he was in charge of player conduct for the NFL. And anyone that follows the league over the last couple decades, I mean, that is a polarizing topic. Is that a stressful job?
It's not and I don't want to name names. It's a type of job that needs to be done, because every sports governing body needs a sheriff. But at the same time, that's a job that wears on you personally, because on the NFL side, there's a fine system where you take actual earned dollars. And I would tease our players, but it was true. You take those fine money dollars out before the federal government takes their taxes out, and then you get the rest. So I simply really, it sickened my spirit after a while, knowing how hard a player has to work to earn that money in a limited time frame as far as career standpoints. And let me add this caveat. This was many years ago. Today's NFL player in 2 years make what players in the 90s made a whole career. So the economics are vastly different. But taking that type of earned income away from a player and his family, that type of thing, is not something that met with my spirit.
Plus, you're fining DBs the most, right? Defensive backs are the guys getting the most fines.
Ironically, the fine system, and I think it's gotten a little better, but it's inherently set up to find a defensive player more often than the offensive player, just by nature, just by how it's set up. So I always say, and I stand by it, you needed a center in that position, because I've done a lot of the things I was policing before, so I knew what to look for. But at the same time, this is not a position that's inherently structured to be a long-term position. You need a certain amount of turnover in that role, because it does affect the person. It affects the person being fined just as much as the person issuing the fine.
How many? I mean, I could imagine from agents to the player directly, it just constant communication with people not happy, right?
I myself and Ndamukong Suh were on speed dial, for instance. we talked all the time. I'm like, Ndamukong, and this is and I've said this to his face. We've been in meetings at the NFL league office together, and we would sit and watch film. Like, Ndamukong, you're the next Reggie White. He's that talent. He's that talented. Just a phenomenal talent. But the rules of our game demand that you have to play a certain way. Otherwise, you're going to be, fined out of not hundreds of thousands, but potentially millions of dollars. Again, that lifestyle was tough on my spirit after a while. It was time to go do something else.
When you had that role, were you reporting directly to Roger?
I was reporting directly to Ray Anderson.
Gotcha. Who worked right under Roger?
Exactly. So as you can imagine, Roger, Ray, and myself spent many a meeting together, going over various players and where they're at and what we could do to help them course correct.
Well, that's another individual, I'd say, pretty polarizing name. You when you actually get to spend time with someone, what's Roger Goodell like?
I think he's done a fabulous job for NFL ownership in respect to growing the business, where the business is now as opposed to where it was 20 years ago. I don't think it's close. I think the valuations and ownership. I think what's interesting with Commissioner Goodell right now, I think in the latter years of his administration, he's done, in my estimation, probably a better job of listening to the players, which he's always done. I don't think he got enough credit for that, but I do think that he's done a better job of that and tried to incorporate more of their positions. And he's stood up in some areas where it was tough for him to stand up, because any commissioner's role is very difficult because you effectively have to lead your bosses, right? So there's a balance there. At the end of the day, he has to deliver for his bosses, but he has to lead them at the same time. And sometimes he has to lead them in areas that, on the whole, they may not simply be comfortable going to. But he's done a better job, in my estimation, of doing that here, certainly over the last few years.
Do you think you'd want that job?
I think that job is it takes a village to fund that job. That's not a job that, as of today, right now, would I jump at? Probably not. I think that I've enjoyed the collegiate experience, and I will say the thing about professional football, NFL obviously top of the heap, but it's professional football. And the longer you're in that role, your skill set narrows. And it's difficult to transition and do other things when it's time to do that. And the days of, I was at the NFL when you had individuals who that was their first and only job. They'd been there 35, 40 years. That's simply not the case anymore. So it's one of those, you have to be careful just from a career planning standpoint, because the longer you're at the NFL, your ability to shift and do other things, quite frankly, it narrows, even though you do pick up valuable skill sets. And I can say most of my peers who have gone on from the NFL and are doing other things are doing exceptionally well because they're talented individuals and they've learned key lessons while they're there. But that is a side effect of being, as I like to say, at 345 Park Avenue for a long time.
Good thing is if you do, the commissioner paycheck, you don't have to do anything else after.
No, he's making a lot of money. I'm so happy about that.
You mentioned Davis earlier. I was born and raised in Davis, and Guy, you came over in ninth grade, but we were an hour away from San Francisco, and I was born in the mid '80s, and my dad is from the Bay Area, and obviously just grew up a big Niner fan. I don't even think. You get older. I worked in the NFL too as scouting and, for the Eagles. So you kind of become numb. You root for people, right? Not teams anymore. but I can't even imagine the 49ers when I grew up being a bigger fan, but just the impact you guys had. I mean, you guys were rock stars. But from a guy coming from Iowa in 91,
from Dallas,
what was that like? From Dallas to Iowa to the Niners. I mean,
I can't say I was.
Did you know what you were getting into?
Well, maybe that's just the. Here, let me straighten myself up. There we go. That's just this way or that way. There we go. I'll get a line here in a minute. I was really a great product of being a North Texas athlete at the time. Coming out of high school, I could put together a high school list of folks that could, quite frankly, if you look at what they've done moving forward, just from a talent standpoint. So going to a 49ers and then coming out of Iowa and playing in the Big Ten was certainly a plus. It's like a plus playing in the Pac-12. You're surrounded with talented people. That's not your issue. Just a quick example. My high school class, I had Michael Johnson, the 200 and 400 meter Olympian. We ran against him in track. Larry Johnson from New York Knicks. You want golf? We had pro golfers. We had, and these weren't just pro people from a talent perspective. These were high level, multi-time, high level folks. So, and it was across every sport. So, the talent wasn't the issue. I think it was more of.
You're like Jerry Rice. I was running against Michael Johnson. What are you talking?
Yeah. Well, my rookie year, that was George Seifert the head coach George Seifert he would test out. George Seifert was, as you know, originally a defense backs coach and a defense coordinator before becoming the head coach. So, how he would test out his rookie corners coming in, he would have Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Montana throw to a Hall of Fame receiver, Jerry Rice, and throw right at you for about 10, 12 plays in a row to see if you're going to hold up or not. And so I was able to bat down a couple of balls and ended up intercepting one ball and kind of ended the drill. And George Seif's like, okay, you might be a keeper. We might be able to keep you. And that was how you got indoctrinated into the 49ers. And to your point, John, when you had great individuals. My first workout there, the great Brent Jones, tight end, Santa Clara, was out working out, and he didn't razz me, he didn't talk down to me. He pulled me to the side immediately. He said, "I read about you, know about you." He hadn't seen me work out day one. The first thing he says is, "I need for you to be great. We need for you to be great to get to where we want to go." I'll never forget that. And Brent's a great friend of mine to this day. And that's what you were surrounded with, great athletes who had great work ethic and really were about the team. It's almost shocking, even the great players. I remember our 1994 team when Deion Sanders came in the locker room. And look, Deion is used to being Deion's used to being the guy, right? Wherever he's at. Deion, that's nice, but I got Steve over there. I got Jerry. We got a bunch of guys here. Grab your jockstrap and let's go to work. And so, he was able to shrink his ego about being a guy and become one of the guys, and being able to do that help elevate the entirety of the team.
He did say he had a Lamborghini delivered to the team hotel the day before the Super Bowl. And Ricky Waters says that Jerry and Deion almost came to blows maybe that week or in practice. Is that true? What was there real tension between the two, or is that just made up?
It was, I call it manufactured tension. We were having the best practices we ever had. The problem is and I'll say it, I was out at 4 a.m. drinking my shots down on South Beach. And then the next day. But the practice were going so well. Balls, we would go through practice, and John, you've heard this gazillion times. Ball never hit the ground. I mean, every catch was made, that type of thing. And so I think George Seifert needed to manufacture a sense of drama. Look, we had played San Diego, and great respect for San Diego, great respect for their players, AFC champions, that type of thing. We knew we were winning that game, right? So it was just going to be a matter of how much we were going to win the game by. So we needed, from a coaching perspective, you needed to introduce at least some sense of drama, some sense of unity, and George used a couple of us not arriving at curfew on time to call a team meeting. Probably about, this had to be like Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, and everybody was all indignant and that type of thing. I'm like, okay, yeah, but we're gonna go win this game, and after practice, I'm still going here. My wife's in town now. We're going to go hang out, and we're going to get on a normal schedule the way we go. So there was to me, it was manufactured tension. I didn't, quite frankly, give it much credence then, and many years later, still don't.
Well, I remember, and I've heard so many of you guys talk about it, is that the Super Bowl was really the Dallas Cowboy game. And that game, and once you beat them, it was on. But
I don't like to say that. That was the NFC Championship game. It was an important game, obviously. I would say that just on pure energy expended and being worn out and tired and what it meant to the organization, that game meant as much to that team. But the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. I always, I never want to say that a NFC or AFC championship game I played in both divisions is more important than the Super Bowl. But for us at that time and what we needed to do and what we need to overcome, and the fans at Candlestick Park at that day, that was the single most draining, probably the most consequential game. And to your point, John, including the Super Bowl, that NFC Championship game was more consequential to me personally than the Super Bowl because of what it meant for the organization or fan base, and really for the NFL. The NFL is better when you have certain teams that need to be challenged. Look, the NFL needs the Dallas Cowboys to be well. They need the 49ers. I love Seattle, played in Seattle. You need the 49ers to be a good team on the West Coast. You need the Giants or the Jets to actually do something in New York, right? There are certain teams in the NFL that need to play well because it makes the league better overall, in my opinion. And it was good that the 49ers were able to overcome a Cowboys team that, look, we knew that team was going to be a dominant team for the next few years, that we were able to upset that apple cart a little bit and go win a championship. It was good for the league, actually.
Mert, I know we got to let you go here soon. Before we do, though, now that I know I've asked you about the chicken dance before. Now that you're in the Bay Area more, are people asking you? I guess you're not really seeing people on the street in the Bay Area that much. But I would expect when you walk around the Bay Area, it does come up from time to time, does it not?
The Bay Area is like New York. The Bay Area, to me, is like Philly in this instance, that they have great respect for the sports, whether it be collegiately or professionally. They recognize as participants. For long of a short of it, ironically, the last time I was actually visiting my friend over in Pacific Heights, and I was heading over to Union Square, and a young man, it tickled me. He looked at me, and I'm like, he can't know who I am. He's, probably all of 13, 14 years old. He breaks out doing the little dance. I'm like, oh my goodness, YouTube is amazing, because that's the only way he would know about it. San Francisco 49er fans honored, quite frankly, us with their allegiance and loyalty, and I think their tagline, faithfulness, I think it's certainly very true and extends even to this day.
Merton, you said little dance. Again, you guys were rock stars, and that dance was a big deal.
It was, you know what? It's a fun thing. I think the last time I was able to do it, I think Commissioner Larry Scott extended the offer to me to come to work for the Pac-12. So I broke it out then, John. So that was fun. That was fun doing it at that time. That's for sure. Look, the 49ers, even today, I think that John Lynch and his staff are doing a great job of stocking that team with talent. To me, I'm a talent guy. I always want the most. John, you're from Scott. I always want the most talent on my team. That just, talent wins games at the end of the day. So 49ers can continue on that track, and that's why they need to continue to come to the Pac-12 conference. We've got talented players, and the challenge to us. And I've said this to Commissioner Scott before. I've said this openly. If we're west of the Rockies and you're an athlete, male or female, and you're not at a Pac-12 institution, it's because we don't have space for you if you're talented, is what it amounts to. We want all the most talented kids. We want to put forth the best opportunity for our institutions and those student athletes to win. And we're going to surround them with great coaches, great administrators, and certainly from the conference office do our level best to support them in their endeavors.
Merton, it's awesome to talk to you. We'll let you get back to work. We know there's actually spring football games starting up now, so you got games.
Yes,
and
I'm excited.
It's wild. It's awesome though.
Can't wait.
Hell yeah!
We got Cal this week.
I know.
Coach Wilcox got. He's got a tremendous staff up there. I'm really. And the spring, as you know, is about hope. It's about building momentum. It's about letting the football universe know who you are as an institution, as a team, going into, obviously, summer camps and into the fall campaign. So I'm looking forward to our spring games. I think it'll be a great indicator of what we can be as a football playing Autonomy 5 conference this fall.
I could see Wilcox and Whittingham, defensive guys, produce NFL DBs on their resume. I could see you liking those two.
Oh, they and I'm a big fan of Coach Wilcox because he's such a no-nonsense guy. He's like, Mert, this is what I need. He's very focused. I love him because you know what you have. There's no shadow to that guy.
Yeah.
Which, as a young student athlete, you really do appreciate that. Especially our student athletes at Cal who are exceptionally bright young men. Let's just call it for what it is. So, I'm looking forward to the spring game this week. I'm looking forward to all our spring games. That's for sure.
Merton, we could talk to you for a long time, but it's awesome that you took the time to join us. We really appreciate it.
All right, now y'all take care. John, Guy, be well now.